Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about middle managers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, what are your feelings about the late 20-something middle managers? You know, the ones that have read a few books about leadership. Oh my. I think that this person posted a video on a comment on a video that I made where I actually use these terms, where I kind of express my thoughts on how it is to deal with a, well, in this case I'm just saying a 20-year something middle manager is kind of fresh, a junior manager, and they've read a few books on leadership and now they think that they understand how everything works in a software team or like so forth. And my thoughts on this is usually that the reason why, I mean, this is natural. When it's the same thing for a software developer in many cases. Some, not for all, but in many cases, where you have a software developer who learns the basics, reads a little bit about design patterns, and all of a sudden, like there's design patterns all across the whole project, right? You start like you get innovative about things and you try to challenge things and so forth, and usually you find that some cases it's good to challenge, but in many cases you're just wrong, because that's like not that often that you have a truly original idea. In some cases you do. Good for you. But the same thing is true for managers. And the thing is though, like the only thing that I really am usually bothered by with the 20-something middle managers is or like the younger managers, is like the personal security and prestige and stuff like that. It's usually easier to deal with because like they lack one of the things that a good manager usually has, which is domain knowledge. Like to have someone who is mature enough to understand, okay, what needs to be done, and has the answer to questions, and like knows how to talk to people and make things happen and so forth. But the thing is, it's really like the base skills. Most of them have it. Like if you're a 20-something manager, it's very likely that you are just as qualified to do the average management tasks as someone who's been doing it for 30 years, because it's really, at least in my opinion, I've never seen a manager, or it's extraordinarily rare. Oh, I'm gonna say never. I've never seen a manager's leadership matter at all. Practically. Like there's one exception. I've seen it once where I've seen, and this has nothing. I will go as far as to say that this has nothing to do with the fact that he was a manager. He could have been a software developer, or he could have been a cleaner, and just how if you gave that person the responsibility, he would have made an impact that actually raised all of the other people. He had energy, he had charisma, he had all of these sorts of things. These are things that I argue you can teach them, but the average manager has nothing of this. Like they're not like I make a distinction between a manager and a leader. And the average manager is not a leader. They read a few books on leadership, but most of what they do is facilitate. That's what they do. They are, in many cases, a different version of a secretary. There's a lot of planning that goes into IT projects. There's a lot of when you're hiring people or you're planning projects or whatever you're doing, right? And someone needs to be in charge of making all that happen. It's a demanding job. It's stressful. There's a lot of things that you need to, like a lot of balls to keep in the air at the same time. But it's not a very it's not a hard job, if that makes sense. It's not a job where only a select few people with the right education and like all of this stuff, like that stuff, guys, is not the most important part when becoming a manager. It really, in my opinion, at the very least, the thing that makes a good manager on average is the people skills. That is the core of it all. Like, are you able to just adopt the work patterns at your company and get in contact with people and like make them feel comfortable and sit in on the meetings, and then write things down in an Excel sheet or whatever you're doing, and make sure that you follow up on things. These sorts of things are like, you can do that really well when you're 20 just as you can do it after you've done it until you're in your 50s. That's not like so the main difference is usually just domain knowledge. The 20 somethings, they don't really know anything about anything that they're working with, like they're completely fresh. So a lot of the responsibility of figuring things out and like what should we do and what should we not do lies on somebody else. And in some cases, of course, that's the case as well if you're dealing with something highly technical, even if you're like an older manager, because it's not a requirement for people in management to be like prior developers or whatever it might be. So even if you are more experienced, that's not always the case, that you know all these things. But that's fine, because you usually have at the very least an understanding, like a rapport with other managers. You can get in contact with the right people, and you can actually make things happen and so forth. And so can the 20 somethings and so forth. But honestly, if I'm going to be completely and radically honest with you, the average manager, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, unless you have someone who is in charge of like making business decisions or anything like that, which is usually the case. Like, it's increasingly more rare to find like purebred managers who have like nothing else to offer, because, as I said, it's such a basic job for most intents and purposes. If you want a really simple job, be a Scrum Master. Holy shit, the work that you do as a Scrum Master is like the impact that you have on the team is almost like it's so simple, and I'm not joking now, that you could master or you could get to a level where you can do that job in an afternoon. I shit you not. The reason why I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm actually completely serious. The reason why I know that, why I can say that, is because I've seen it happen more than once. I've worked with a few people in my day, and literally this has happened. We've had senior project managers and like extremely experienced people who quit managing for a specific project or dealing with a specific specific team. And more than once we simply said, you know what, we need to find somebody else who can do this job. Hey, you there, software developer. And we literally picked the person who was most suitable of us software developers. Can you facilitate all these meetings and just send out the invites and like all of this stuff? And he goes, yeah, sure. And then he started, and now he's our manager. That was the whole process. So on the one side you have someone who with years and years of experience, super good at like all of these things, and of course he was a product manager, so he did a lot of other stuff as well, and like analytics, etc., which is the thing that really you should hire for when you're hiring a manager. But like the facility, like the leadership and like this other stuff that do like the day-to-day stuff, one guy could do it in the same afternoon. I don't even think he got through. They put him through basic training for Scrum or Agile or anything like that, because he's a goddamn software developer. He does the thing that matters every single day. He doesn't need like the academics behind it, because it's not as complicated as some people might lead you to believe. So what I want you to take away from this is that my personal opinion is that leadership in management is usually a joke. There's almost no leadership in management. Like practically an average adult will be able to take care of the so-called leadership part of management. But as I said, like the really good managers, the ones who you should keep around in the company, are usually people who have either domain knowledge, like they're extra good at things. I mean, in IT, it's like a godsend if you have a programmer who goes into management, because when you're hiring people or you're looking for like tooling or improving workflows or whatever, they actually know what matters. They understand how to talk to people and understand how to relate to the people that they are managing, which is not the case for someone who's like a purebred manager, has never done that stuff. They kind of just like do the same thing as everybody else would do. I mean, if I don't know, I have no idea. If I became a manager for, I don't know, a hospital, I wouldn't know the first thing about how to manage doctors. What would I do? Well, I do know how to book meetings and facilitate stuff, so I'll just ask them, what do you need? And then I'll just try my best to make that happen. And that's what I'm saying. A 20-something with social skills can do the job of like a basic manager just as well as someone who's in their 50s. The only difference in terms of leadership is like it's not found in the age or the experience level. It's usually found in the person that we're talking about. The age thing and experience things usually come in more when we're talking about domain knowledge, and that's why what I see more and more. More companies are moving towards hiring managers who have some secondary function apart from sending out a like a mass invite to the retrospective. I mean, damn it, pay me a manager salary and I can do that in between code reviews. Have a great day.